just after noon, and the heavens went black. Not tempest gray, black. Dark as 3 in the morning, right in the middle of a busy Wisconsin workday. Forecasters had called for a low risk of tornadoes that morning. Low. And then the air itself turned hostile. On July 27, 2026, a twister tore through the Fox cities. The warning came at 11:59 a.m. The vortex had already touched down. Somewhere between 11:55 and 11:59, the vortex was organizing before touching down around noon, chewing through Appleton, Menasha, and Neenah. Think about that timing for a second. The alert on your phone buzzing at the exact moment the funnel is grinding across the highway. Thousands of people were at lunch, living an ordinary Monday, and then the overhead canopy just collapsed. So how does a weather system nobody feared become a violent tornado in minutes? One number explains almost everything: 80.6 degrees. That was the dew point recorded right before the system hit. A dew point that high means the air was drowning in moisture. Thicker, wetter, and far more loaded with fuel than the air over the Amazon rainforest. That is not an exaggeration. That is the raw, verified measurement. All that humidity is pure kinetic energy sitting there, waiting for something to light the match. When the atmospheric system rolling through finally found it, the atmosphere detonated. This is why the low tornado risk forecast fell apart so fast. You cannot predict a monster when the ingredients assemble in real time in the span of a single morning. The moisture spiked, the spinning cell organized, and a quiet summer atmosphere became something that could flip a truck. By 12:01 p.m., the National Weather Service had seen enough. They upgraded the alert to a particularly dangerous situation warning. That phrase is never boilerplate. Meteorologists reserve this tier for high-end atmospheric threats, indicating an enhanced potential for a severe, destructive tornado active on the ground. 2 minutes after the initial warning, they were telling an entire region, "This is not a drill. Get underground, get to your lowest floor, do it now." And this twister did not rush. It stayed on the ground for roughly 30 minutes, grinding a path across the terrain before finally moving out over Lake Winnebago around 12:20. 30 minutes. Half an hour of a tornado plowing through populated towns at midday. Most are gone in a few minutes. This one settled in. And what did 30 minutes do? It caved in a massive industrial roof. The Miller Electric Distribution Center on South Perkins Street in Appleton, a heavy-duty commercial structure, collapsed like cardboard. Out on Highway 10, drivers were living a waking nightmare. The winds flipped multiple semi-trucks, full-size 18-wheelers, tipping and throwing them across the road. Other passenger vehicles were pinned underneath hot, sparking power lines, leaving drivers trapped inside, unable to move without risking everything. Picture that. You are behind the wheel, wipers useless. The dome above is a terrifying shade of green-black, and suddenly the truck next to you is on its side, and live wires are down across your hood. That is the reality, thousands faced with virtually zero advance warning. A Monday afternoon in Wisconsin. Then the lights went out. For a lot of people. Over 30,000 local utility customers across the Fox cities lost power, and one town got hit worst of all. The entire municipality of Menasha went dark. Not a neighborhood, not a few blocks. The whole city, every home, every business, every traffic light, gone in an instant. Now let me clear something up right here. Some confusion arose when large regional outage figures were conflated with local totals in Appleton. That is flatly incorrect. The wider Midwestern weather system did knock out power to over 390,000 customers across the whole region. Sure, but locally, inside the Fox cities, the actual number was just over 30,000. Still enough to completely paralyze a community. Still enough to turn a summer afternoon into survival mode. But losing electricity was only the beginning of Menasha's problem. When the power grid died, so did the local water treatment plant. And that triggered something people rarely think about until it happens to them. Menasha and Fox Crossing officials issued a boil water order. Suddenly, you cannot trust the water coming out of your own tap. No power to cook, no clean water to drink, no operational traffic lights on the roads, and the streets are already choked with debris and downed lines. This is the quiet cruelty of an event like this. The actual funnel passes in 20 minutes, but the systemic destruction lingers for days. You do not just lose a roof, you lose the basic machinery of life, all at once, in the middle of what was supposed to be a normal Monday. Now, let me tell you what it actually felt like, from someone standing on the ground. Greg Van Driest was working in downtown Appleton when the light vanished. He looked outside his window at noon and saw a dome as dark as 3 in the morning. His immediate word for it? Ominous. One word. But you can feel the entire weight of the moment packed into it. That gut drop when your brain knows the time is wrong, that the darkness does not belong, and something enormous is bearing down. No dramatic buildup, no hours of warning sirens, just a workday, a window, and a firmament that turned to night, while the wall clock read noon. How do you even process that in the moment? You do not. You just feel it in your stomach and hope you have time to run. For Heather Schroeder, over in nearby Menasha, it was not the darkness, it was the physical sound, cracking, popping, the unnerving noise of an entire town being systematically pulled apart. She stood and listened as the twister completely destroyed a local bakery, a laundromat, and a tavern. 3 ordinary businesses on one street corner, places you drive past every day without a second thought. And after the vortex moved on, she described what was left in 2 words. Nothing left. Gone. A corner that had been a vibrant part of the neighborhood's daily life was completely wiped off the map in seconds. Think about the people who owned those places. The baker who unlocked that door every morning. The regulars who sat at that bar. In one single brutal pass, their entire world got rearranged, and all Heather could do was stand there and listen to the destruction happen. So how strong was this vortex really? The radar told a story that is honestly difficult to comprehend. The radar detected a huge debris signature being lofted 16,000 to 20,000 feet into the upper atmosphere. 20,000 feet. That is approaching the cruising altitude of many passenger jets on short flights. Shredded pieces of industrial buildings and personal wreckage were sucked miles straight up into the freezing air by the raw suction of this cyclone. The National Weather Service damage assessment teams deployed on July 27th and July 28th to study the structural failures on the ground and determine the intensity rating. Their preliminary determination? At least an EF2 on the enhanced Fujita scale. Some early chatter floated a stronger rating, but the official rating remains at EF2 as the assessment goes forward, and I am not going to inflate it beyond what the engineers actually confirmed. The hard facts are heavy enough on their own. Here is the single number that changes how you should feel about this entire disaster. 0. No deaths. No serious injuries officially reported in the Fox cities right after the vortex struck. Set that against everything you just heard. Flipped semi-trucks, a collapsed industrial roof, an entire municipality blacked out, debris flung 20,000 feet into the blue, and somehow, when the final count came in, the community was still standing. Some viral online posts ran with false conspiracy theories about the destroyed facility. Local emergency management and news organizations immediately confirmed there were no fatalities. No confirmed fatalities. In an event this extreme, hitting at the worst possible time of day, that is not mere luck. That represents real people who moved when it mattered. And the hard fight did not end when the storm system finally cleared out of the region. That is when the real work started. By July 28th, the city of Menasha had officially declared a local state of disaster. County Executive Tom Nelson signed the formal declaration and got straight to the point with local residents. Stay put, avoid the blocked roads, check on your neighbors. No grand polished speeches, just the plain, honest instructions of a leader watching his community dig itself out of the ruins. Because that is what happens long after the cameras arrive and the vortex is gone. The unglamorous, sweaty part. Neighbors clearing branches off driveways, crews restringing power lines one pole at a time, families boiling tap water on camp stoves and waiting for the water supply to be safe again. And the system left one more calling card hours before it ever reached Appleton. At 10:50 that morning, near Belle Plaine, the same disturbance dropped hail 3 inches across. 2 inches. That is bigger than a golf ball, falling out of the atmosphere hard enough to dent steel and shatter windshields. A full hour before the tornado touched down. It was a warning shot nobody could read yet. The air mass was already loading up, already showing its hand, and within 90 minutes it went from bruising hail to a half-hour tornado that darkened the afternoon at noon, caved in a factory, blacked out a city, triggered a boil water advisory, and threw wreckage 4 miles into the air. All of it. In one weekend afternoon. And when the survey teams finished measuring, one fact towered over the rest. The number that should stay with you longer than any other. Not a single life lost. That is the whole story right there.